Magic Engineer, and I just wanted to make a real quick video to do kind of like an update for what I see is kind of like the state of like Magic the Gathering, the community, my channel. There's just been like a lot of just crazy stuff going on lately, and I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to jump into that fray. But I will say that a lot of people did like thankful videos on things that they personally are thankful about, kind of like as like a Thanksgiving, you know, hey, let's all actually just focus on what's good and what we're thankful for. And I was planning on doing the same, but I actually got pulled off onto some other family stuff. So anyways, here's some of it. One of the things that I'm thankful for is to be able to like do things like this, like, you know, in living in a good country, you know, with a roof over my head and meals every day and a job that I actually enjoy, and having free time to actually do something like fun and be on, you know, the internet, sharing with others, you know, what some of my passions are. It's just kind of a really cool thing, and I'm definitely really thankful about that. And another thing is I'm actually, and I don't think any of you, including Daniel or anyone else, knows this yet, but I'm actually a cancer survivor. I actually did have melanoma, and it was just one tiny little spot. I didn't actually have to go through very much. I got real lucky in that way. The spot was found and they removed it, and when they tested it, they were like, yeah, it was definitely melanoma, but we caught it what they called in situ, which means like it's like real like thin on the top layer of the skin, and so it didn't have a chance to get down or spread. And that was years ago, and so I'm good now. But that was a real scare, and you know, it kind of really it shocks you and makes you like really check your life, you know, and kind of how things are and what you're doing. So I'm thankful that I'm still here, right? Able to spend time with my wife and daughter and still just enjoy things. So yeah, that was awesome. And I'm thankful that people actually seem to appreciate this channel. And I honestly didn't completely expect that. I didn't really know what to think. My buddy Daniel Chang was encouraging me to actually make this channel. And another friend from work, you know, it's funny enough, his name is Daniel also, but Daniel Ames was actually he was pushing me to do this because he was saying he thought I have a lot of interesting things to say and that people would actually enjoy. So I'm thankful that they actually pushed me to actually start making these videos, but I'm even like more thankful that like people actually do like it and the channel has actually been growing. And like I've told you guys before, this isn't a job at all for me. Nobody sponsors me. I don't get any money from anyone. I turned on the monetization for YouTube videos, but I think I've got like $20 or something out of like, I don't know, like what if I got like 25 videos and who knows however much time I've put into it. And so it's like pennies, you know, an hour like you're working for. You know, when people's channels get big, I suppose that's one thing. So, you know, effectively, I'm really not making any money, and I haven't promised anything to anyone. So this is all just for fun. This is all just for you guys, in case you actually like it. So the last thing I wanted to mention that I was thankful for is just the community, actually. I'm thankful for the Magic the Gathering community that, you know, sometimes people think it's terrible that the community is small. But that's actually kind of nice because it's been interesting to get involved in the community, and I've already gotten to know like several of the other people that are doing this kind of thing, and there's players that I've looked up to for years and years, and some of them I've gotten to interact with a little bit. Like I got to do some emails back and forth with Brian Weissman, and I got to talk to him a little bit, and you know, I looked up to him for years as, you know, the creator of the deck, and I got to play a game with him years ago, back in like Mirage time frame when I was in Mountain View, California for a tournament. But I've actually got to interact with him a little bit, and I've been interacting with Randy Bueller on some of, well, my last video actually, I reviewed his deck and then he replied, and I got to chat back and forth with him a little bit, and I got to play against him at GP Vegas. So, and also the time I've gotten to know Daniel Chang from Vintage Magic pretty well. But now Rudy I'm starting to get to know kind of well. You know, we text back and forth every once in a while, and we email, and you know, we got some plans coming up in the future to do some cool stuff that haven't really talked too much about yet. And in the last like few months, I've been starting to get to know Open Boosters also, which he seems like a really cool guy, and we've got something cool planned with him too, but I don't want to talk about it too much yet in case it doesn't happen. But I'm actually getting to know the community, and so it's honestly really cool getting to know these people, and you can share passions and stuff. So also something that's been interesting to me, I don't know, it's just what seems to happen when you create a channel and the attention that kind of draws in. I've had a few of my first trolls on my Instagram account or on my YouTube account. And sometimes you can't really quite tell they're trolls. Like what they start to say sounds kind of nice, but then they'll just kind of crush you with something. And you'll be reading their comment like, where did that come from? That seemed kind of out of the blue. And other times it's just totally obvious. Like I had this one guy, when I did like my video about like, you know, what I actually do for a living, and I was showing like, you know, the motherboards I've helped design and write BIOS for and stuff. He came in, he was like, oh, you didn't do that, and you're misleading people about it, and the stuff is easier than you're making. He just kind of was just being really negative on like what I was actually talking about, and there was no point, and all the things he was saying just wasn't true. And so I remember at first reading the comment like, am I missing something? What is he even talking about? Then I eventually figured out that the guy was just a troll, and then he came back onto one of my videos later when I was talking about like trading, and I was talking about how like nobody ever seems to want to trade down, and he was like, you never trade down. If you're willing to trade down, I'll trade you all my whole collection and you can give me your Power 9. And I was like, where's this guy even come from? Because firstly, like I have traded down with people several times. If I have like 5 copies of a good card and I only need 4, and someone over here needs one of those cards, I'll trade with the person. And usually what I'll do though, if it's like a $50 card, you trade like $60 of smaller cards for the one $50 card. But yeah, you do trade down. It totally happens, and I've totally done it lots of times. So it was just so funny to see trolls kind of come out of the woodwork. And another thing I've seen is some people have actually, I mean, I've only got a few hundred subscribers on my YouTube channel. I think I just rolled over like 650 or something on YouTube, and like 600 on Instagram. Like, so compared to like the rest of the community of YouTube Magic players, it's like that's very small. But I've already got people who have contacted me and said like, hey, if you talk about this subject, I'll do this. Or if you talk about, you know, my deck that I designed, then, you know, I'll let you be the first to use it, but you got to mention my name. And people try to like strike these deals and stuff. And I'm just like, first of all, you guys, I'm kind of nobody right now. And secondly, it's like, you know, I'm not doing this for a job or anything. I don't really want anyone to dictate my channel, but I'm just kind of amazed that even happens. Like with someone that's only got like a tiny number of anyone that subscribes to anything. So anyways, I just thought that was interesting that actually even happens. And I wanted to talk briefly about this whole, the number of players, you know, decreasing from like, what was it, 20,000 players in Magic, no, 20 million in the Magic community down to like 12 million within like a 3-year period. Mark Rosewater had a statement about it. And I know lots of stuff has come out since then, and my point isn't to talk about all that. My point, though, that I do want to talk about is I don't honestly know how many times in the last few decades that I've heard people say, Magic the Gathering is gonna die. Dude, it's totally not gonna die. There's so many people all around the world that just love this hobby. Do people get mad at times? Yes. Do people sometimes just get irritated and take a break? Well, sure. In fact, I would actually encourage it. If any of you even watching this video are feeling like, I'm kind of frustrated with Magic, I don't like where it's going, you know, no one says you have to have one hobby in your life. Go just do something else for a bit, right? Don't take something that you love, that you're passionate about, and ruin it, right? You know, just set it aside for a while, right? Like, I love TV, but I'm not going to watch it for 20 hours straight until my neck hurts, and then get up off the couch and curse TV off of my life for like the next 20 years, right? Just take a break, you know, go do something else. And, you know, I think people do that. I can't even tell the number of stories I've heard where people said, like, I left Magic, but then, like, a friend reintroduced it to me, so I came back to it later. You hear those stories all the time. So, no, I don't personally think Magic is going to go anywhere. I can definitely see that it'll blow up sometimes and it'll diminish sometimes. My personal opinion is, like others have said, there's been a lot of overprinting of cards. There's been a lot of destruction of value, which is hard for a lot of people. Like, I know there's the whole player versus collector thing, and the players want prices down, collectors want it up, and it's this like butting heads with each other. But I mean, a lot of people out there do get irritated either when the tournament formats get ruined or the values get lost, and kind of both have happened recently, right? If you think about it, like in the standard format, which I know I haven't talked very much about like on my channel, but in the standard format for the last few years, actually, there's been several times where only like 1 or 2 decks actually dominate the format. And like, there's like hundreds of cards made in the sets that are allowed in standard, but you only have like 1 or 2 decks that are really the competitive ones, and everything else is just garbage. And that's a big problem, right? Because if you are into the playing side of Magic the Gathering, right, and you're into the standard format, it's like you either play these 2 decks or you're probably going to lose, right? And everyone's already playing these decks. And every card in those decks, because everyone else already wants it, is already super expensive. Well, that is a problem with the actual overall game of Magic. It's a problem with the community. It's a problem that Wizards of the Coast actually has. And honestly, I put most of the fault of this on Wizards because I think their internal development and their playtesting and their research hasn't really been doing their job. I mean, when cards like, you know, Skull Clamp and stuff can get made, or Tolarian Academy, and even the first time players look at it, they're like, well, this is stupid. This card's going to get broken like crazy, right? On one hand, it's exciting, and it can kind of bring people in, and it can spur off whole new generations of decks. But on the other side, when it breaks an entire tournament format and only have a couple of decks that are good and viable, well, that really irritates people. So the players had a couple big knocks in the last few years, but then also the collectors did too, because a lot of the collectors saw a lot of their older cards get reprinted. Like, we all loved it that Modern Masters 2017 had like all the fetch lands, and then they also got printed in like other sets leading up to it. On one hand, that was really cool because they were definitely needed for a lot of formats. So that's not all bad, but if you were somebody, like imagine you're the guy that just went out and just dropped $100 to buy a Scalding Tarn, and then you're like, oh gosh, look at that, they just printed it, and my card just went down to $30. It's kind of harsh, right? So the collectors have really been hit hard from the massive amount of reprints flowing into the market, like even stuff like Mana Drain and like the latest Iconic Masters set. I mean, you kind of thought that Mana Drain was likely to almost never get reprinted again, but it did now, right? And you're starting to see them pop out of boxes like crazy. So the collectors took some hits, the playing side took some hits, and just based on all this craziness with the elections and politics, which I'm not getting into on this channel, the point is that people have just been kind of clawing at each other for a while. So I don't honestly see that Magic's going to go anywhere. I'm not worried about it long term. I think it's kind of going through like a negative phase for a bit, but there's a lot of people that love it. It's just like the winter phase of the seasons of Magic, and then at some point we're going to hit spring again. New players are going to come in, and it's going to hit summer eventually, and then people are going to be all excited. And this is kind of like, for all you financial guys, that's called the Kondratiev cycles. The Russian guy that studied finance, how he talked about how finance world goes in like seasons, just kind of like the year actually does. So anyways, that's what I think is basically happening. It's just coming into like a winter time, and it's slowing down, but so many people love this hobby. I don't honestly see it going anywhere. So the last comment before I go, there's 2 other videos I wanted to mention I'm going to be making really soon. And if you guys have any other kind of suggestions for it or specific points you want me to touch on, leave it in the comments below. One of the topics is I'm going to spend a video talking about proxies. And I know I have talked about proxies a little bit in the past with an earlier video, but I keep getting the same question again. And my proxies comments were kind of baked into a different video. So I want to have a video just on proxies. And I want to bring some information, bring some data in, and bring some good perspectives onto it if I can. And just focus one video on just that, the topic of proxies. And then the next other topic, or topics, because I'll probably do a few of them, I'm definitely going to do some budget old school deck techs. And that's because like I've had a lot of interest for the deck tech videos, specifically the old school ones. But I think a lot of the newer players that don't have those older expensive cards are either intimidated that they can't get into old school, or they really want to and maybe they have some of them but they just don't quite have the budget. It's kind of a large bridge to gap, and I'm telling you guys, you can get into old school with budget decks, and you can actually be competitive. I've seen some of the decks, I've played some of them. It definitely happens, right? Some of them will even win tournaments, and it can be based on, of course it's a little harder, right? If everyone else is playing top tier powered decks, and you come in with something that's just like goblins or something, it might be a little tougher for you to win. Like against most of the field, you'll have a good advantage. Against a couple of the decks here, you'll have a tough play, right? But not everyone plays perfect, and the point is it can be done. So I'm going to go over some budget old school deck techs in some of my next videos. So that's all I had to talk about, you guys. Thanks everyone for subscribing and sticking with me, and I'll be making a lot more content here in hopefully the next couple weeks. Bye everybody.